year's theme is Welcome to Our Jungle. We would like to congratulate the senior class for winning the float competition this afternoon. Senior members of the football team will be serving as escorts for senior and co-captain cheerleaders and the Royal Court. We would like to begin by introducing this year's varsity cheerleader, Becky Bigelow, Jr., daughter of John Bigelow and Margot Bigelow. Dodie Collins, Jr., daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Alvin Collins. Nikki Miller, Jr., granddaughter of Nancy Dermont. Stacy Brown, Sr., daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Jack Brown. Stacy is being escorted by Jason Morgan, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jim Morgan. Sandy Campbell, Sr., daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Carlisle. Sandy is being escorted by Stephen Bailey, son of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Bailey. Ashley Payne, Sr., daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Dan Payne. Ashley is being escorted by Jim Hassan, son of Mr. and Mrs. James Hassan. Charity Strong, Sr., daughter of Linda Henry. Charity is being escorted by Scott Wyckoff, son of Larry Wyckoff. Our co-captains are Angie Roark, Jr., daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gary Roark. Angie's escorts are Rodny Ayers, son of Mr. and Mrs. Tom Ayers and Carol and Wayne Dooley, and Jason Stahl, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jay Stahl. Amy Bowen, Sr., daughter of Linda Bowen. Amy's escorts are David Compton, son of Mr. and Mrs. Jean Compton, and Mike Hall, son of Earl and Susan McCulley. Senior class president Angie Stilabower, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Lonnie Stilabower. Angie's escort is Jeff Pattison, son of Mr. and Mrs. Will Pattison. The Queen candidates were selected from the senior class by the football players. The Queen has been elected by the student body. This year's Royal Court includes Joanie Devine, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Chris Devine. Joanie's activities include volleyball, band, cheerleader, Spanish for the First Baptist Church handbells, and youth group. Joanie is being escorted by Chad Kellenberger, son of Mr. and Mrs. Orland Kellenberger, and Travis Wilhite, son of Mr. and Mrs. Brent Wilhite. Jenny Hillman, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Jim Hillman. Jenny's activities include band, rifle, winter guard, tennis, basketball, softball, lifeguarding, yearbook editor, science club, student council secretary, National Honor Society, and is a member of the First Baptist Church handbells and youth group. Jenny is being escorted by Lance Boleen, son of Mr. and Mrs. Bruce Boleen, and Jeff Tucker, son of Mr. and Mrs. Ron Tucker. Erica Swearingen, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Gerald Swearingen. Erica's activities include band, drum major, chorus, sound system, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, basketball, softball, science club, math club, student council president, National Honor Society, and is a member of the First Baptist Church handbells and youth group. Carrying the crown for our Queen is Nolan Tuck, son of Mr. and Mrs. Don Tuck. The flower girl is Katie Miller, granddaughter of Nancy Dermont. They are being escorted by Student Council Vice President David Scott, son of Mr. and Mrs. Ted Scott. Before we crown our Queen, we would like to give special thanks to a few groups who have tried to make this year's homecoming the very best. The Student Council for organizing this afternoon's parade and for the Queen's crown and flowers. The Metro Club for the trophies. The Lions Club for the prize money and the float competition. The band and Mr. Doug McCarter for the music. The Adult Youth Council for their assistance with the homecoming dance. And your 1988 football homecoming queen is Joanie Devine.